The reason why I wanted to talk to you today was because I felt like a lot of people who were thinking about doing podcasting, and admittedly, I was one of these people who, like, for 5 years, I was like, okay, I got to do a podcast. I got to do it. Or I have to somehow get myself out there and do the next thing.
Yeah.
And initially it started as being part of Remax Play and then RE Video. And I find that even now, like, a lot of Remax agents don't know about those groups. But then I got introduced to podcasting. I had the opportunity for coaching. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. And I just did it. And it was like taking a dive off the deep end. And one of the things
you're doing great.
Well, one of the things I like about you is that you are just doing it. And I'm like, you are very good at just putting it out there. So how do people, first of all, tell us what your background is. Tell us what you do now.
Right.
And tell us why you do what you do. So first of all, what's your background?
Well, I hope you got a couple of hours here, and it's going to be a long background. No, I'm just kidding. But I actually grew up generally in a real estate environment, and because a lot of my relatives and people like my parents' generation, I guess, they're all in the real estate business. So that kind of, you know how it works during dinner. It's it never ends, right? And I graduated, and I was really realistically how I got in was graduated and was just looking for a job, and I actually got hired with Century 21 Canada, which is the corporate office for Century 21. And the job itself at the beginning was just cold calling. That's all day. I'd pick up the phone, call somebody, right? So, but I didn't like the job. Obviously, I don't think anybody would like cold calling their whole career, but I got good at it at some point, but it didn't help with liking it still.
Question, was that because they gave you a system and you just followed the system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you start to learn how to handle rejections, objections, and things like that. And, eventually you get, I guess, what's the description word? Thicker face, right? Your face gets thicker because you can take it now. You're a skin test because you can take it now. I can take more, any brutal stuff that comes in my way, I can take it. And I know how to handle it, right? Even from a mental point of view and, with the person itself. But anyways, as I moved on, fast forward years then, I moved around the company. And before I came to Remax, I was director of franchise sales and development for Century 21 across Canada. And then 2.5 years ago, almost 3 now, getting close to 3 now, I've been Remax, Western Canada. So the title itself, director, but ultimately it's looking after our franchisees and membership. So I'm not really going to talk about the broker side of things, but more of a membership side, which I think is more important because when I came over, I looked at it, I was like, okay, well, how can I improve the overall engagement with real estate agents and what we do at Remax?
Right.
And one of the things was, on social media and online, right? Engagement. And a lot of people then already, 3 years ago, people still put, type messages or posting photos and things like that. But you look at it this way, if everyone does it, it becomes really clutter. And doing photos and writing and all that stuff doesn't really show a personality. And how I've always looked at people in general, regardless of real estate or not, is that they like to follow a movement. They want to follow something that's relatable to them. And that's how I started thinking, well, video is one good thing to show a personality, right? Right. Not just keep saying the same thing, typing the same thing online or posting a photo. But that's what I think that's overall, that's what the key difference between videos and anything else then. So at the beginning, I really didn't know how to do videos. In fact, I suck at it, right? And I still remember very clearly, there was a video I wanted to send to the brokers. It was the first one I was going to do. At the end of the day, that message was 2.5 minutes, but it took me 2.5 hours to do.
Right. I found, so about 5 years ago, I was talking about engagement, and I was saying the first level engagement is a post with words. The second level is a post with a picture, because picture says 1,000 words. The third level is the video.
Right.
And the power of the video and the podcast actually is with the podcast. And I do think you should be on podcasting, by the way, because he's not currently doing that. But the reason why is because even if the video sucks, the audio is good.
Right.
So the audio will come through first. So anyway, I'm applauding. What was the main difference when you moved from Century 21 to Remax? Did you find?
From a brand point of view, I think the biggest difference is the overall culture, because every brand represents something culturally, right? And that's aside from the education and the logo and all that stuff. I think the culture is the biggest difference, and I mean it's what Remax has always focused on is everybody getting together and doing well together.
Right.
So even I think from that message early on, some 40 years ago by Dave Lineker, kind of transformed even till today. And I see that working together, Remax agents like yourself and Tony, who's also in Victoria, and many others across the country. You guys really share what you guys do best at with each other. And a lot of people worry about that, right? It's like, I'm good at this, but if I share this, then you're going to take it away from me and things like that. But
yeah,
that's the biggest thing I find between the two brands.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you've been hired on, and your title is?
Director.
Director. Okay. Yeah. And so you said, what can I possibly do to bring to this corporation or company, or what would we call it? Franchise.
Yeah.
And so then what was the next step?
The next step was, because there's a lot of things going on in terms of programs and services, right, with Remax. And as you know, we do send a lot of emails out, but we look at the open rates. We're happy to even sometimes get 25% of people opening them.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, but still not very good, because there's still that 75% of people that have know nothing about it, right? So we got to start to be creative in how we can get people to understand what we're offering here, right? Because at the end of the day, every program that we develop is to ultimately help the agent to be better, to become better at what they do.
Right.
So that's when you got to be creative. And I was like, okay, well, we got to deliver it in another way. And social media is a great way to do it. And videos and podcasts. So Wade actually from our office does the Remax Hustle podcast. Yep. So he's the audio and I'm the video guy. So the two of us have actually worked together to kind of plan this out and, kind of go out there and get everybody more engaged, because everyone's different, right?
Right. So actually Wade's going to be on in 2 weeks, everybody. So
awesome.
Yeah. And he is totally different than I am. I don't know if he's totally different. You seem a little more impetuous, like you would just do it. Wade is very much about planning. I was watching your show, The Voices in Real Estate, and you read your values at the beginning. I'm not sure if that's something you do. Is that something you do every?
I do.
Yeah. So that's important because, it sets the tone of what's happening. So I think it's a key message people can take away to improve their podcast, is to read the values, because it sort of sets the tone from the beginning. Okay. So you create your 2.5 minute message. It takes you 2.5 hours.
It was bad.
But do you find though, it's so same thing with developing the podcast, is the first time when you're in a skill acquisition, it's going to take you longer. Now it's like, it's quick and dirty, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. And back then you were about saying every single word correctly, right? And angle has to be right, lighting has to be right, and so forth. And that's what I guess for most beginners, that's what they try to have perfection in what they do, right? But the whole point, and then as time goes on, I start to realize it's really not about that. It's just like, this is how I treat it now. It's like I meet somebody in person. Yeah. So I start saying stuff, right? And however I want to be presented in person should be how I want to be presented on a camera. it should still be you. It doesn't have to be perfect, because no one is perfect, and that's the thing. And people, and as time goes on, as long as you're not saying something that's, not appropriate, just be yourself. A lot of times, just deliver the information, what you're thinking, and deliver it out. And don't try to read off things that, and make everything perfect, because it becomes not you.
Right. And I think also it's something that's unsustainable over time, because if you aren't you, you're not going to show up the same way. And then to me, that doesn't generate a trusting relationship, and people won't invest in their time or energy in you if you're not trustworthy.
Right, exactly. And not everyone's a public speaker, right? And I'm not a public speaker. So, but I do videos because I just want to be, it's like getting to know people, right? I want people to know me. And so I want to know people. Right? That's basically all it is, just in a different way of communicating.
So, and I think the key for that, the learning from that, is to be interested in other people rather than being the interesting person, so that the conversation is so much better when you're interested in what people have to say. Agreed? So you have to ask good questions.
I agree. You have to ask good questions, and depending on what you're trying to achieve. So for like how I do the interviews themselves, usually there is prep work, and obviously, and there's a trial run to make sure all the technology is working. But realistically, I only have four. I have 4 questions every time.
Okay.
For the people that I'm interviewing. And do we stick with 4 questions? Obviously not, right? And I tell the person, it's like, these are just guidelines, okay? These are just general stuff that we're going to talk about, but don't take it like I'm going to ask every single question the exact same words that I wrote it out. And it's not going to happen, right? Things will lead to other topics and so forth, and that's how the conversation gets interesting for people. So,
right. It's the lead, it's the stem, and then you're building the branches as the conversation proceeds.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. And I think 4 questions I didn't ask you 4 questions, but usually what I do in the afternoon, for my more structured talks, is I ask 4 questions, or I ask them for 4 points they want to make when I'm highlighting a business owner, so that I can then ask the questions. And I notice if I go off script, they get a little flustered, but that's okay.
Well, that comes across authentic. Well, it's just, I have the 4 questions because a lot of the people I interview, I don't know well enough, and they could be new to doing this. And some people are just ultra nervous, right? And I want to protect them too, right? Because if they're nervous and things don't come out the way they want it, or comes out completely wrong, it's unfair for them, because they're not used to doing this. So I want to give them a chance to be, just to kind of at least mentally prepare what they need to answer, and just be natural them.
So what are your 4 questions?
4 questions well, it depends on the person, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it depends on the person and the topic. So I just ask them, just put down 4 general questions for each person I interviewed ahead of time.
Okay. And do you ask them what they want to highlight as well?
Yeah, and I do. And I said, you can say, and even on that email I send with the 4 questions, I always at the bottom said, the most important part is for you to be comfortable, and I'm flexible with whatever you want to talk about.
Right.
If there's more stuff you want to discuss, I'm open to it, and I've always left it that way.
And so, so you started your first video to your bosses, and so that was in a somewhat protected environment. Is that right?
The first one was to the broker owners. It was a bomb video to them.
Are you using BombBomb regularly?
Not so much now than I first started here, because now I got to know a lot of them pretty well now. A lot of our franchisees. So what I do is actually I just pick up the phone and open the chat or SMS and record a video and send it to them directly. That's probably the way I do it now, instead of doing a BombBomb, because BombBomb there's a lot of good things about BombBomb, like tracking and customization and things like that. but it's still not authentic enough unless you have an official message you want to deliver to somebody, like where you would put the video and then you would have a couple writing down. It's more of an official thing that you would send them. Then I would use Bomb Bomb. But in general, if I have a question or a happy birthday or a congratulations, this is awesome, things like that, I just pick up my phone, take that 10-15 second, record a message and hit send.
Right. So it's quick.
It's even faster than typing for a lot of people.
Do you get immediate responses when you send video?
Most of the time I do. And interesting enough is because a lot of people still don't send videos, right? And if I send a video out, they actually try to send a video back, and I know they normally don't. And it's really interesting because the way they talk, they're like, oh, I got to send one back to you and things like that. They would actually tell me that they're trying their best to send one back to me because I send one to them. But it's fun, right? It gets people. I mean, everyone gets text all day, but a video message does change things around a little bit for everybody.
Okay, so then you have a number of different projects that you do. So what are they?
Well, in terms of engagement and so forth, so well, there was one I was doing because I was flying about 90 to 110 flights a year. Well, obviously I can't fly right now, but once I get back to it, I'll do it. I'll continue on. It's called Flight Thoughts because I spend so much time in the airport, and you got to be there at least an hour before flying time, and then there's connection and all that good stuff. But I was like, you know what? That particular hour, you're either working or you're thinking about something, right? And I have a kid, so that hour is valuable to me. It's my time, it's my peaceful time, and those are times where I actually think about things that are happening.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the Remax culture, and I go, well, maybe some of these things are useful for people, or they never thought about, right? So why don't I just take that, 30 seconds or so and just put it out there in the Facebook story, right? All it takes is 30 seconds, right? And I call it Flight Thoughts. And interestingly enough, when I started it, there wasn't that many views. And there was one time I played basketball and I got this huge black eye for a couple of weeks there. And then from there onwards, the viewing rate got increased just, at least 2 to 3 times. It obviously wasn't the content that improved, but that black eye caught somebody's eyes. And from there onwards, it just escalated the views.
So yeah, and I really like the fact, this is what I'm trying to tell everybody, this just, he doesn't do it perfectly. You sit there in the airport, you have your earbuds in, and you're just chatting, and it comes across as really authentic. It's not a discussion with somebody else. It's literally just something you're thinking about and you're just doing it. And this is like, I'm finding a lot of people are in this group are going, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Just get out there and do it. And even if it's, a 5-minute thought a day or whatever, the more you do it, more frequently you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. And this is going to be the reality. And we have the gift of time right now, right?
Yeah. And what's also interesting with that is if you share a thought out, a lot of times you get people sharing their thoughts back to you. So you actually get comments back. It's like, oh yeah, I agree with this, or I don't agree with this, but how about this? Then that way you start a conversation, right, with people.
Yeah. So I notice you're doing another show on Thursdays. What's that one?
That's I call it the Remax, the Voices in Real Estate. What it is that it's every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So what I do is interview either Remax agents or somebody else in a different field, but also related to real estate, that can help real estate agents ultimately become better at what they do. That's always been my philosophy. Whatever I do is to help people become better at what they do. So, for example, I've had Katrina and the team. So she runs a really good team. Sarah Kalki that was on there, and from experts outside. I had a lawyer to talk about liabilities in the past, and also Jeff Cox, who's our actually insurance partner, but he talked about government programs and so forth. Just miscellaneous topic that ultimately helps people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm also finding too that when you have, when you, like Sarah asked me to be on her show next Monday. So there's like a circle then of people who are speaking, and you get to like, I invited Wade in a couple of weeks. He invited me to be on his. So that's another way also of just sort of having warm interviews, because you've already met them online. You already chatted with them, and it's going to be a good conversation. So, so talk to me about how you're doing this. Are you just, so a podcast is just putting it on a platform, audio only. Have you thought about doing that? I
haven't thought about doing podcasts because, well, I can't say things as smooth as Wade. You'll know. You'll see. He's actually a Toastmaster.
So what?
But no, I'm just kidding. But he's actually really good. But I mean, we planned this kind of, one person to do the podcast, and I'll do the video part of it. Right. So that's also one of the reasons why I never really thought about podcasts. And I think he does a fantastic job, because the equipment itself is also very different between the two. So I know how to use Adobe Premiere with Photoshop and InDesign and you name it kind of stuff, right? Because it takes editing and sometimes graphics of some of the videos I've done. Like I used to do a carpool interview until brand infringement issues with singing. With singing. Can you believe that? With singing, even my voice, not even somebody's voice. But anyways, so I stopped doing that. But that, a lot of times, if you want to do a good video, it requires editing.
Right.
And also graphic design and all that stuff. And I know how to do that stuff. That's why it's like I said, videos is a completely different, separate than podcast, even in editing point of view. And the tough part about video is that it takes a couple hours to edit, even though it seems like it's not much. It does, because you got to time everything right, and you got to know the softwares too.
So for us, for our podcast, we go in and take out all the uhs and ums, and especially if somebody has a bit of a tick where they say something over and over again, like, we'll take that out as well, because it makes them look better on the other end. So yeah. It is authentic, but it is edited, and I don't do that. Do you do your own editing then? Is that what I'm hearing?
For videos, I do.
Yeah.
I do my editing. Yeah.
Okay. So is what you're doing, does it have to be approved by RE/MAX, or are you just coming up with the idea and implementing it?
Well, I do come up with the idea. So we have weekly meetings anyways, within the group ourselves. And I would, kind of talk about it, what it is. And I mean, Elton and Roy has been really flexible in terms of that, and they're very always encouraging us to kind of do new stuff. So yeah, I mean, it didn't take much to get approval, but it got approved, and off we go. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have to trust each other's instinct and decisions in doing this and doing it right.
Right.
And I think so far it's been pretty good overall between myself and Wade in terms of talking to people. Because sometimes another tough part about interviewing, whether it's podcasts or video interviews like this, is you don't know what the person will say. And
right.
Especially if it's live, right? It could come up completely wrong. And that's why it's also important to, well, first of all, if you know the person, great. But if you don't, just have a 15, 20-minute casual conversation before you do it. So it gives you an idea, okay, can I trust this person to say the right things?
Right.
Because you'll get a sense of it after a while.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I found it easier sometimes to interview people I know well than it's been to interview people I don't know, because I can anticipate where we're going to go with the conversation. That's exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And you can get to the point where you want to go. So are you finding it easy or hard to get guests for your show on Thursdays?
So far it's been pretty easy. I think I've done 13 of them now, but it really started since the COVID situation. So since mid-March, so 13 is in a short period of time. I think it's pretty good, but it's actually people are very open to do it, I find, and you just have to take that initiative to ask. Like for example, the lawyer. I mean, Richard Bell. I knew him for years ago, but I never asked him to do anything. I just kind of send him an email, call him up, and go, "Hey, you want to just share your ideas?" And you'll be surprised. Even though, like for example, lawyers, a lot of people think, "Well, if I ask him, he's going to charge money and yada yada yada." But you'll be surprised. A lot of people are actually open to share their thoughts for free,
Well, I think
and as
also
long as you ask.
lawyers are entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, and so they like to be the sage on the stage. And I know for our company, they get a lot of business just because they show up every week in front of a group of people. And we've taken all of our company meetings online, and it's actually way better because now I can actually hear the lawyer when he talks.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so I call it being the sage on the stage. So when you do something like this, where you're interviewing somebody, you find, Braden Wheatcroft talked about this, you kind of gain credibility in real estate as well, because people can hear you and listen to your wisdom and they go, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I
Yeah.
don't. But do you find it up levels you in terms of professionalism?
I think so. And the more I do is the more credibility it gets. And that's not only because of things I know already, but I always think that, when I'm interviewing somebody, I benefit the most out of everybody, even though more beyond the ones that are actually looking at it, because I'm there every time.
Right.
And I get to ask any question I want. So it's if I'm curious about something, I just ask and I get my answers right away. So as time goes on, like the 13 I've done, I've basically learned everything I want to know from them. The 13 of them.
Yeah. And they're open to providing you with that free information, right? Like, it's great.
It's great. So how do you not, how does your credibility not increase over time when you're learning from the best, right?
So what's the downside? Like, what stopped you initially doing it, and how did you overcome it? That'll be a question people will want to know.
Interestingly, I used to really, I'm going to use the word suck, at at talking. Whether it's, I don't know if it's a language barrier or just personality, I just wasn't good at it until I actually went to take a course on public speaking 3-4 years back, and kind of just go straight from basic and learn a little bit better. But what I find is that the biggest challenge is just the nervousness. And still today, or even this episode today, as much as I've done it now, the first minute is always a challenge for me.
Yeah.
You got to get that out of the system, right? Because it's just the nervousness of it. And especially going on stage, like sales rally or conferences like that, the first minute, what I try to do to overcome that now is to just start with something funny. Because I don't know if it's something funny for people to laugh at or just something funny that for myself to laugh at to get me going. But I think it just helps, right? In the overall mood for myself and for everybody else, just start with something funny and go at it afterwards. Because with speaking on video or on stage or anything like that, you already know the information beforehand. It's just a matter of how you deliver that out to the audience.
Yeah. I find, I'm thinking, just listening to you on your Thursday talk show, The Voices in Real Estate, that I really like the values that you're presenting. To me, that I'm part of another organization where we do that at the beginning of every meeting. And to me, that is a very grounding thing to just, I guess, to bring it all back to basics and understand why are we here? Why are we doing this? And I'm thinking maybe I'm going to incorporate that. I mean, that's what I've learned from you today. And Wade, he does that too.
Right.
And I think I don't know. It's just I never thought of doing something funny at the beginning. I'm just naturally funny, so.
Well, then there you go. You don't have my issue, right? That's why I started with something funny.
Yeah, funny means to me. Funny is when you have something unexpected. When somebody says something unexpected, And it's interesting you say that because I just realized my most popular interviews are when something funny happens, and usually I'm dying of laughter. So anyway.
Well, people
Okay.
just want to know who you are. Right? So.
Exactly. And I think, the old adage, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. This is a really easy way to do it and just get out there and get it online. So I understand about your podcast versus no podcast. However, I still think you should do that. But anyway, just focus on different areas and wait. And then you won't overlap. Okay, I'm just gonna see if there are any questions. Just gonna bring out.
Divided by 30.
RK, who's that?
So we're at 73%. If we go 3.2, we're at 73%.
Oh, it's somebody.
Of the value.
No, okay. I'm gonna mute him.
Yeah.
73%, huh?
I don't know what's going on there. Okay, Trisha, are you around still? Oh, she's muted. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Great presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just going to listen to both of you and force myself to do it. I mean, it's one thing to do a Zoom meeting, but to take charge and do it is a little different, right? But.
Well, I'm just asking you to start your video so we can interact with you.
Oh. Okay. Here I am.
So, I mean, I've watched you on the Realtors Without Borders on Mondays, and you're really good on that. So I think, there's, I don't think that should be a barrier for you. I think you can just start.
Well, I am actually going to start doing a monthly market update for Canadian buyers and sellers because we have no idea when the border is going to open again, right?
That's true.
So I think there's probably a lot of very nervous people that have vacant homes here. And the big thing is they don't know when they're going to be able to come back. So.
Are you going to do that by chatting with other realtors, or are you going to do that by just one way?
Probably both. And you and I have talked about this before. I think a lot of realtors don't take advantage as much as they should on the people that they know that have properties in other countries or want to purchase on that referral opportunity.
So I run a referral group, a cross Canada referral group, and we have one realtor per city, and we do cross country market updates, and Trisha's being in part of those. I find that they're key, again, for up leveling. Plus, if you're going to be doing something with another realtor or somebody like Kingsley who has his own following, you're going to spread your wings a lot faster, right, if you're interviewing other people. Do you find that, Kingsley, that your influence is spreading the further you interview people?
I think the more you do, the more you get a following. Like, for example, the 13th I've done, I would say the first 5, I probably had about 300 views on average at best. But the last 5 was more 500 and something views. So it just shows that the more you do it, and obviously you have to provide good content for people to follow, but the more you do it, then at the end you'll get more people watching it or trying to get on it and see what they can learn from.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I'll interject here just for a second. So in Banff, I did present on REMAX and the global opportunities. And so Kingsley, you might want to consider asking Sharon von Schoenberg from the Canadian Real Estate Association to present in your group, because CREA actually offers some pretty amazing programs for Canadian realtors. They have the Global Affiliate Program, and it gives realtors like myself and all over the United States to join the Global Affiliate Program. But it's free, it's included in your realtor membership, but it would allow the REMAX agents in Canada to step more into the global world if they took advantage of that free.
Okay.
So
I didn't even know that
definitely
it was
look into
around.
Mm-hmm. I'll send you her contact information.
Oh, that'll be even better. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, just to sort of go back to format, what I've actually approached a friend of mine. He and I studied for our real estate exams together 14 years ago. He's 3784 and I'm 3783.
Wow.
In terms of our Victoria Real Estate Board numbers. Anyway, so because I know he's comfortable online, but he's not comfortable speaking. And he's a really bright guy. One of the things that we're going to do is a he said, she said podcast, where because we have very different views of real estate, we have different approaches. And that's one way of just getting yourself out there with a friend. So now with the technology, you can team up with other people. So you could almost team up with other people, Tricia, across 4 people across North America or whatever. Just to get yourself going. And what that does, it makes you accountable to other people other than yourself. Yeah.
I agree. Even on our Realtors Without Borders planning meeting yesterday, I said, we will all eventually be going back to work more than virtually. Yes. When that's going to be, we don't know.
Yes, but for your market update, it might just get you going, because I find setting the appointment, like I realized the reason why this is such a great opportunity and why people should be starting it now is just to create the habit of doing it. Right, Kingsley? Like you're out there every week, same time.
Yeah.
So will your plan be to continue it after we sort of come back to some form of normalcy?
Well, I actually started doing 2 a week when this whole COVID started, but now I'm dialing back to 1 a week, and I will continue on once a week onwards. I think that's sufficient enough. You don't want to be overdoing it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I will be continuing on doing it. I think it's something that it's really 20 minutes or 25 minutes every Thursday, right? So It's not that long, and it's good enough length for people to follow or look at it even afterwards when they have time.
And the great thing, so Facebook Live is kind of hard to search. The great thing about downloading the audio and video from these is that you will then have evergreen content for whatever website you have or whatever platform you're on, and people can go back and listen to it or watch it. So I highly recommend it. It's I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it's an investment of time in content and in developing relationships with people. You just will elevate your interaction. Any thoughts? For me too, also, I have trouble doing a market update. I do a 1-minute market update every Monday, and it's like agonizing for me because I have to do it within 60 seconds and for it to be perfect. And I sit there in my office and I swear I do it 30 times to get the 1 minute.
Because that content is not it's not coming straight from your head. It's just coming straight from a piece of paper or stats, right? That's why it's tough.
So I would rather sit down with a friend who will interact with me and talk about the market, and then I'll get it done, and then I have the appointment at 10 a.m., sit down for 15 minutes with my friend and chat.
Yeah.
And just get it done.
Ultimately, it really comes down to that. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to just reiterate a few things that Kingsley has said. One is don't be perfect. He didn't say this, but he meant to be interested, not interesting. Have the 4 questions. So come with 4 questions so that you at least have the branches, and then you can build out, you have the stem, you can build out the branches from them. And don't worry about, again, don't worry about it being perfect. Just do it, right?
Yep. And also one thing is a lot of people don't realize is when you're on camera, just smile more than you normally would.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you get in a conversation, you get really serious, but you think it's serious, but people think you're mad when you're on camera. So try to smile as much as you can, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I find that too. And also look at the camera when you're talking as opposed to looking at the person. I tend to look at the person when I'm listening and then look at the camera when I'm talking. So, little tip for you. All right. Thank you so much for being on our show today. Next week, what we're going to do is a panel. So anybody who is running a podcast, I invite you to be on the panel and let's chat. We're all going to be on there together. Let's chat about the do's and don'ts and get going, and maybe we can do some coaching of one another to perfect our podcasts. I'll invite everybody to share what their podcasts are this week so we can get on and check them out. And then the following week after that, we're going to have Wade Patterson. He's with Remax Hustle. He's an awesome guy, very organized, very precise. He is a pro, so he has background in journalism, so he's going to be an awesome speaker. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now.